This happened on Christmas night, 2019. I know the exact date because I remember thinking how unfair it was working late on Christmas Eve while everyone else was home with their families. I remember the exhaustion, the autopilot mode, the way I barely noticed getting on the bus. That autopilot almost cost me everything. Because somewhere between boarding that bus and sitting down, I crossed into a place I wasn't supposed to be. A place where people aren't quite people anymore. Where they take what they need from you piece by piece to become whole enough to cross back into our world. It took me a week to escape, or at least, that's how long it was here. For me, it felt like months. And 2 months after I came back, I saw her, walking through downtown São Paulo like she belonged here. Like she'd finally gotten what she needed to cross over. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning. December 24th, 2019. 11:47 p.m. I was the last one to leave the office. Everyone else had clocked out hours ago, rushing home to their families, their dinners, their presents. But I had a deadline, a report that couldn't wait. So I stayed. By the time I finished, the streets were mostly empty. Just a few stragglers like me, tired souls trying to get home before Christmas turned into the day after. I walked to the bus stop at São Caetano Street, in the heart of downtown São Paulo, the usual spot. The usual route. I'd taken this bus 1,000 times. When it pulled up, I barely looked at it. I was too tired. Too focused on getting home, taking a shower, collapsing into bed. I stepped on, paid the fare, found a seat near the back. And that's when my brain finally woke up. Something was off. I couldn't put my finger on it at first, just a feeling. A prickling at the back of my neck. I looked around. The other passengers were wrong. Their clothes, for one thing. Not wrong in an obvious way, but dated. A woman across from me wore a floral dress with shoulder pads that screamed 1980s. A man near the front had on a leather jacket with that distinct sheen of old, cheap material. Everything looked worn, faded, like costumes pulled from a thrift store. And they were all staring at me. Not openly, but I could feel their eyes. Quick glances. Sideways looks, the kind of attention that makes your skin crawl. I shifted in my seat, trying to ignore it. That's when I saw them. 2 girls, maybe 7 or 8 years old, sitting together near the middle of the bus. At first, I thought they were just close, leaning against each other the way kids do when they're tired. But then one of them moved, and the other moved with her. Exactly with her. Not like they were holding on to each other, like they were connected. I stared, my stomach turning cold. Their shoulders. They were joined, fused together at the collarbone, as if their bodies had grown into each other. Siamese twins. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the way they looked at me, both of them, at the exact same time, with the exact same expression. Blank. Curious. Hungry. I stood up so fast I nearly fell. I need to get off, I said to no one in particular. The bus driver didn't react, didn't slow down, but after a moment, the bus stopped anyway. The doors hissed open. I practically threw myself onto the sidewalk. The moment my feet hit the pavement, I knew something was deeply wrong. The street I was standing on wasn't the street I'd been on moments before. It looked similar, same general layout, same kind of buildings. But everything was different, older, decayed. The buildings looked like they'd been abandoned for decades. Peeling paint, broken windows, faded signs advertising businesses that didn't exist anymore. The streetlights were weak and flickering, casting everything in a sickly orange glow. And the cars. The few cars parked on the street were old, not vintage old, just old, models from the 80s, maybe early 90s. Rusted, dented. Some with flat tires like they'd been sitting there for years. It was like stepping into a photograph from 40 years ago. I turned around, hoping to see the bus, to get back on, to pretend this was just exhaustion playing tricks on my mind. But the bus was gone. The street was empty. No, not empty. I could see people, figures moving in the distance, shadows passing by windows, but whenever I tried to get closer, they would disappear, slipping into doorways, vanishing around corners. It was like they were avoiding me. "Hey!" I called out to a woman crossing the street ahead. "Excuse me, can you help me?" She didn't look back. just quickened her pace and disappeared into a building. I tried again and again. Every time I approached someone, they would move away, fade into the background, as if I were invisible. Or worse, as if I were dangerous. Panic started to set in. I pulled out my phone. No signal. The screen flickered weakly before going black, dead, even though it had been fully charged 5 minutes ago. I was alone, truly alone. I don't know how long I wandered. It felt like hours. The streets all looked the same decaying buildings, the same flickering lights, the same empty silence. I was starting to lose hope when I finally saw him. An old man, maybe 70, walking slowly down the sidewalk with a cane. "Excuse me," I called out, my voice cracking with desperation. "Please, I need help. I'm lost." He stopped, turned, and smiled. It was the kind of smile I'd seen all night, warm, grandfatherly. "Lost?" he said gently. "Oh, you poor thing. It's Christmas. You shouldn't be out here alone." I nearly cried with relief. "I don't know where I am," I said. "I got off a bus and—" "Don't worry," he interrupted, his voice soothing. "Come with me. My house is just around the corner. You can rest there, figure things out." I hesitated. Every instinct told me not to trust strangers. But what choice did I have? I was lost in a place that didn't make sense. And this man was the first person who'd actually acknowledged me. "Thank you," I said. He nodded and started walking. I followed. His house was small, old, the kind of place that looked like it had been standing since the neighborhood was built. He pushed open the front door. It wasn't locked and gestured for me to come in. The inside was worse than the outside. It was packed, floor to ceiling, shelves crammed with junk, stacks of newspapers, boxes overflowing with old clothes, broken electronics, rusted tools. The narrow hallway was barely wide enough to walk through. A hoarder. He was a hoarder. "Sorry for the mess," he said cheerfully. "I don't get many visitors." I followed him into the living room, which was just as cluttered. But what caught my attention weren't the boxes. It was the mannequins. There were dozens of them, scattered throughout the room, leaning against walls, sitting in chairs, standing in corners. Some were full body. Others were just torsos, limbs, heads. All of them staring with blank, lifeless eyes. "You collect mannequins?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Oh, yes," he said. "I've always found them fascinating. So lifelike, don't you think?" I nodded, even though everything in me was screaming to leave. One of the mannequins was close to me, propped up against a shelf. Its hand was outstretched, as if reaching for something. I looked closer, and my blood turned to ice. The hand. It wasn't plastic. It was skin. Real skin. Waxy. Stiff. But real. I could see the fingerprints, the lines in the palm, the faint discoloration of veins beneath the surface. This wasn't a mannequin. Was this a person? "Are you thirsty?" I spun around. A girl had appeared in the doorway, maybe 16 or 17, thin, pale, her eyes too wide, too watchful. "This is my daughter," the old man said. "She'll get you something to drink." "I'm fine," I said quickly. "Actually, I should—" "Nonsense," he said, his voice still kind but somehow firmer. "You've had a long night. Sit. Rest." The girl disappeared into I believed to be the kitchen, before I could protest. I stood frozen in the living room, my eyes darting between the old man and the mannequins, or whatever they were. She returned a moment later holding a glass. The liquid inside was thick, orange, like mango juice. "Here," she said, holding it out. I took it, my hands shaking. "Is it mango?" I asked. She blinked, looked at her father, then back at me. "Yes," she said too quickly. "Yes, it's mango, right, father?" Her voice was uncertain, nervous, like she wasn't sure what the right answer was. "Yes, dear," the old man said smoothly. "Mango." I stared at the glass. The liquid was too thick, too bright, and there was a smell coming from it. Faint, chemical. "I'm not thirsty," I said, setting the glass down on a cluttered side table. "Thank you, but I really need to go." The old man's smile didn't waver, but his eyes changed. Just a flicker, a coldness that hadn't been there before. "Are you sure?" he asked, It's a long walk back, I'm sure. I moved toward the door. Fast, not quite running, but close. The old man followed. He was slow with his cane, but somehow he kept pace. His footsteps echoed behind me in the narrow hallway. I reached the front door, yanked it open. He was right behind me. "You should stay," he said softly. "It's not safe out there." I didn't answer, I just bolted. I ran down the front steps, through the overgrown yard, toward the gate. I could hear him following, not running, just walking, steady, relentless. I reached the gate and threw it open. And then, as I crossed the threshold, he stopped. Just stopped. I looked back. He was standing at the edge of his property, right at the line where his yard met the sidewalk. He wasn't moving, wasn't trying to follow anymore. He just stood there, watching me, smiling. I ran. I didn't know where I was going. I just ran. I turned corners, cut through alleys, tried to put as much distance as possible between me and that house. Finally, when my lungs were burning and my legs were shaking, I stopped. I was on a residential street, quiet, empty. No, not empty. A woman was unlocking the door to a small house. She was moving quickly, glancing over her shoulder like she was afraid of being followed. "Please," I shouted. "Please, I need help." She froze, looked at me. For a moment, I thought she was going to run, but then her expression softened, just slightly. "Quickly," she hissed, opening the door wider. "Get inside, before someone sees you." I didn't question it. I just ran up the steps and into her house. She slammed the door behind me and locked it. 3 locks, a chain, a deadbolt. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice low and urgent. "I don't know," I said. "I got on a bus and..." "You're not from here." It wasn't a question. "No," I said. "I'm from São Paulo. I am in São Paulo, I think. But this isn't your São Paulo," she finished. "This is Setealen." The name hit me like a punch. I'd heard it before, years ago. An urban legend. A place that existed in the cracks between realities. A dimension that overlapped with ours but wasn't quite the same. I thought it was just a story. "You need to leave," she said, "as soon as you can, before they..." "Before they what?" She looked at me, and for the first time, I saw the fear in her eyes. "Before they take what they need from you." She made me sit down, brought me water. Real water. And then she told me, "The people here," she began, "they're not complete. They're broken, missing pieces. Literally." I stared at her. "There are some who figured out how to cross," she continued, "how to move between here and your world. But to do it, they need to be whole, complete, human." "What does that mean?" "It means they take parts," she said quietly, "from people like you, people who cross over by accident." My stomach turned. "The old man?" I whispered. "The mannequins..." "Those aren't mannequins." Silence. "They drug you," she said, "with food, drinks, anything you consume here. It makes you docile, paralyzed, and then they extract what they need, an arm, a leg, a hand, piece by piece." "But they're alive?" I asked, horrified. "They have to be, for it to work." I thought of the hand I'd seen, the waxy skin, the stillness. "Why are you helping me?" I asked. She looked away. "Because I used to be one of them, before I refused." She pulled up her sleeve. Her left arm was wrong. The skin tone didn't quite match. The texture was different, smoother, almost plastic. "I took this," she said, "from someone who came through, and I've regretted it every day since." I stayed with her for a while. She fed me carefully, showing me that the food came from sealed packages, unopened cans. Nothing made here, nothing that could be drugged. But I couldn't stay forever. "There's a way out," she said, "at the edge of the district, where this place ends and the in-between begins. If you can get there, you might be able to find your way back." "Might?" "It's not guaranteed, but it's your only chance." I left at dawn, or what passed for dawn here. The sky lightened slightly, from black to a sickly gray. The streets were still empty, still wrong. I walked for hours, following her directions, keeping to the shadows. And then I saw her. The girl, the daughter from the old man's house. She was standing in the middle of the street, just standing there. Our eyes met. She ran. I don't know why I chased her. Maybe because I was angry. Maybe because I was desperate for answers. But I ran after her through alleys and side streets until finally she stumbled and I caught up. Wait, I grabbed her arm. She spun around, eyes wild with fear. And that's when I saw it. Her arms. One was thin, pale, childlike. The other was thicker, darker, an adult's arm. The skin tone didn't match. The proportions were wrong. She'd taken it from someone. Please, she whispered. I just need one more piece. Then I can go. Then I can be whole. Again. I said, you can't do this. I have to. Tears streamed down her face. I have to leave this place. I can't stay here anymore. Then leave, but don't take anything else. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she turned and ran. Wait, I called. Where's the exit? How do I get out? She stopped, pointed down a narrow street. That way, she said. Keep walking until you can't see the buildings anymore. And then she was gone. I walked, and walked, and walked. The city didn't end. It just faded. Buildings became sparse, then crumbled, then disappeared entirely. I walked through gray nothing, empty space that wasn't quite space. Time didn't work right. I couldn't tell if it was day or night. I couldn't tell how long I'd been walking. It felt like months. I slept on cold ground, ate nothing, drank from puddles that might not have been water. I thought I was going to die there. And then, one moment, I wasn't there anymore. I opened my eyes. I was lying on concrete, real concrete, in the middle of Praça da Sé. People were staring at me. I was filthy, covered in dirt and grime. I smelled like I hadn't showered in weeks. I pulled out my phone. It turned on. Weak battery, but it worked. The date read, January 1st, 2020. I'd been gone for exactly 1 week. It's been 2 months since I came back. I've tried to move on, tried to pretend it was a hallucination, exhaustion, a breakdown. But I know what I saw. And last week I saw her again. I was walking through downtown São Paulo, near República. The streets were crowded, full of people rushing to work, to lunch, to wherever. And there she was, the girl, standing on the corner, waiting for the light to change. Both her arms looked the same now, same skin tone, same proportions. She'd finished. Our eyes met across the crowd, and she ran. I tried to follow, but she disappeared into the mass of people. Too many bodies, too many faces. By the time I reached the corner, she was gone. But I know what it means. She made it. She crossed over. She's here now, walking among us, whole. And I can't stop thinking, how many others have done the same? How many people around us aren't quite human? How many are still looking for that last piece? If you've made it this far, maybe you understand why I'm telling this story. Because if it happened to me, it can happen to you. A wrong bus, a wrong turn, a moment of inattention, and suddenly you're somewhere else. Somewhere that looks like home but isn't. Somewhere they're waiting for what you can give them. If you ever find yourself in a place that doesn't feel right, if the people look wrong, if time doesn't make sense, don't accept anything they offer you. Don't eat. Don't drink. And whatever you do, don't let them touch you. Because once they take a piece, they'll always want more. Leave a comment if you've ever gotten on the wrong bus. If you've ever walked down a street that didn't exist the next day. If you've ever met someone who seemed just off. Like this video if you felt that chill, if you recognized that fear. Subscribe if you want to hear more stories from the edges of reality. Because Setealen is real, and it's closer than you think.